Suge went to press Eazy about the contracts at the studio, and he told Eazy that he had already kidnapped NWA's manager, Jerry Heller, and was holding him hostage. When Eazy still wouldn't give in, Suge pulled out a slip of paper that had Eazy's mother's address written on it and told him, "I know where your mama stays." Eazy released Dre and the DLC from the contracts. And that's when Dre and Suge linked.
Man, you come across, man, you gotta hit that nigga with a quick one and get out of there. You gotta do something. But nah, you might not want to hit that nigga. That nigga there a menace. That nigga gonna try to kill you. You hit him. Suge Knight, the rap game's boogeyman, huh? Now, I heard stories about Suge Knight, but I ain't really just sat down and really just keyed in and really listened to about the stories about how he beefed, what he did, how he came up, how he grew up. So, hey, that's what we here for. Trip game, man, what it do, man? What's poppin'? If we ain't hot, if we been hottest in today, the rap game's boogeyman, Suge Knight. Now, like I said, I ain't really too much. I done heard stories over the years about Suge Knight, but I ain't really just like really paid attention, sat down, how he grew up, how he came up, how he started this and that. And that's what we here for today. Suge Knight, the rap game's boogeyman. We finna see what they talking about in this one right here. I see y'all rocking out with these videos right here. Like I said, y'all already know I'm rocking with them. That's why I had to see if y'all was rocking out with these right here. I knew y'all was gonna rock out with these anyway, because like I said, I like to see how rappers beef started, how they got this X amount of money, how they did this, how they settled their beef, how they all type of stuff. Y'all know what I'm saying. I be wanting to know all that. So hey, if you new to the game, over here, join the game. Don't be lame. We ain't just no reaction channel. We do everything. Smash the like button for your boy. Hit that sub button if you new. Make sure you hit the link in my description. Go subscribe to my second channel. Enough of that. I'm ready to dive into this right here. They say this the rap game's boogeyman right here. Hey, talk to me.
Death Row Records was the most powerful label in the game back in the 90s. Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Tupac were the face of it all and were selling millions of records. Behind all the success was Suge Knight. He was the most dangerous dude in the industry and built an empire with violence, but it didn't take long before it all came crashing down. This is the wild story of how Suge Knight went from earning hundreds of millions to going bankrupt and spending the rest of his life in prison.
That's what we here for. We want to hit
right into it. Suge Knight came up in Compton, California, and was active in the streets as a kid. He was always big and athletic, and at a young age, he learned how to use that to his advantage. Suge told The Guardian that he used to catch a bus to wealthy LA neighborhoods with his homies so they could rob rich kids outside their schools. Suge had ties to the Bloods, but he wasn't just gangbanging all the time. He tried to make a legit career out of football first, and even played 2 games for the LA Rams, but he wasn't good enough to be a full-time pro.
Shit, that nigga big enough. What Suge get, like 250? Shit. Like them old heads say, that boy a motherfucker.
Tried to make a legit career out of football first, and even played 2 games for the LA Rams, but he wasn't good enough to be a full-time pro. He left football behind, and that's when he decided to get into the music game. He started out working security and doing promotion for artists like Bobby Brown. Suge watched.
Man, I know. I ain't gonna pause too much either, man. It would make me think about this. I know Suge was walking in the hallways, walking somewhere, and I know our old head. You don't play no ball, boy. I know our old head hit him with that right there. You know, that's the most famous line. Nigga, when you 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", and you over 200 pounds, you know our old head finna ask you. You don't play no ball, boy? Come on now. Hey, look at him. Look how wide his shoulders is. He look like he'll run a nigga over and just, yeah, he look like the football type though. Look like the football type. But back to this shit though.
Learned how the industry worked, and he realized that being on the publishing side was where all the money was. Suge watched and learned how the industry worked, and he realized that being on the publishing side was where all the money was.
I heard he was
smart, but even early in his career, he couldn't stay out of trouble. In 87,
that's how I be.
He was arrested for domestic violence after he allegedly got into a fight with his girlfriend and chopped off her hair. Then a few weeks later, he was booked again on attempted murder and carrying a concealed weapon while in a stolen car. According to reports, Suge stole the car and let off 3 shots at the dude he jacked it from. It was a serious case. Suge ended up pleading guilty to a misdemeanor and got off with just 2 years of probation. Then in 1989, he went official and started a music publishing company. One of his first artists was a dude named Mario Johnson, who allegedly wrote the track Ice Ice Baby, but never got his royalties. Vanilla Ice had become one of the hottest artists in the world off of the track.
I remember
that didn't
Ice.
matter to Suge. According to Ice, one night he was at a restaurant in LA with his bodyguards when Suge and some goons walked in. Suge kicked Ice's bodyguards from the table and sat down. Then he just stared at Ice for a while before he asked him, "How you doing?" Suge and his crew left without doing anything, but that wasn't the last time Ice ran into him. He said it scared him because Suge would just show up wherever he was at. Ice had no clue how Suge always knew where he would be. Then
That's
one
some
night,
weird.
Ice went to his room at the Bel Air Hotel in LA. When he walked in, Suge and his crew were already there waiting for him. It's not clear exactly how everything went down, but Suge and his goons allegedly jumped Ice and his crew. Then Suge allegedly dangled Ice off of his balcony and demanded him to sign over the royalties to Ice Baby. Ice said he was never hung over the edge, but he told ABC that he was terrified during the situation.
Man, this nigga Suge is wild. Like, that would have indicated me when we sitting down and a nigga just stare at me and don't say nothing. Man, and what they say, he kicked the security team out or something. Man, that shit right there, that's a hint right there. Like, what the fuck this nigga got going? This nigga just come in here and just stare at a nigga for 5 minutes and just, nigga, what? Fuck? Nigga tripping.
Ice said he was never hung over the edge, but he told ABC that he was terrified during the situation, and he ended up signing the papers and losing out on around $4 million. Everyone involved with the situation has a different story about how it happened, but obviously, Suge did something to scare Vanilla Ice badly enough that he just handed over millions of dollars without putting up a fight.
Man, a nigga 6'2", 6'3".
In his pocket, Suge had his foot in the door of the music industry.
200 plus
90s,
pounds.
Started managing artists like DJ Quick and the DOC. At the same time, NWA was starting to fall apart. Eazy-E and Dre were beefing over finances. And Dre allegedly linked up with Suge and had him check the situation out. Dre and the DOC both wanted out of their contracts with Ruthless Records, but Eazy wouldn't let him go. Dre couldn't get out of the situation like a businessman, but his homie Suge knew how to take care of it. Nobody knows exactly how it happened, but here's what most people believe. Suge went to press Eazy about the contracts at the studio, and he told Eazy that he had already kidnapped NWA's manager, Jerry Heller, and was holding him hostage. When Eazy still wouldn't give in, Suge pulled out a slip of paper that had Eazy's mother's address written on it and told him, "I know where your mama stays." Eazy released Dre and the DOC from the contract. And that's when Dre and Suge linked up to create one of the most legendary labels in the rap game. In 1992, Dre released...
Man, the shit he doing, shit, the nigga is the boogeyman. That's some movie type shit, for real. And he had his mama's address written on a sheet of paper. Man, that shit. But it ain't too much to do. You gotta, man, with a nigga like with a dude like that, that's 200 plus pounds. He about 6'2". I don't know how. I know he over 6 feet for sure. About 6'2". I just say he's 6'2", 6'3". Man, you come across, man, you gotta hit that nigga with a quick one and get out of there. You gotta do something. But nah, you might not want to hit that nigga. That nigga there a menace. That nigga gonna try to kill you. You hit him. Man, you gotta. Man, I don't know what you gotta do. Shit, man, I don't know, cause he held Ice-T over the balcony. Ain't too much you can do now. The 200 plus pound dude holding, strangling you over something, and he over 6 feet. Come on, man, that nigga there. That nigga there, man, you gotta hit that nigga with something. But like I said, you damn near gotta. Man, there ain't too much you can do though. I ain't gonna care. There ain't too much to do. You gonna have to shoot that nigga. That's all I can think
Dre
of.
and Suge linked up
because you ain't fighting.
Legendary labels in the rap game. In 1992, Dre released The Chronic on Death Row Records and changed everything. It's still considered to be one of the best rap albums ever made, and it turned Death Row into the hottest new label in the game overnight. Suge had legit money pouring in, and it made him feel untouchable. The same year that The Chronic dropped, Suge invited 2 rappers to Death Row. Linwood and George Stanley were 2 brothers trying to make it in the rap game, so getting put on by Suge was a huge win. While they were all in the studio, Linwood picked up a phone to make a call. According to the reports, the phone was reserved for jail calls from a drug kingpin named Harry O. Harry O put up the cash to get Death Row started, and Suge had a phone in the studio just to take his calls. Yeah. Witnesses say that Suge told Linwood, "Say, blood, don't be on that phone." But Linwood clapped back and told him, "Don't be coming at me with all that gangbanging shit. I'm not from LA." That's when Suge proved just how violent he could be.
I already know it.
Suge put a gun in George and Linwood's faces and made them take their clothes off. Then he brutally attacked them, took their IDs so he could track them down later if they went to the police.
See, like that, man. When you come around nigga like Suge, man, you gotta have that eye for Suge. I ain't gonna cap. You gotta have that eye for Suge. That nigga big, you ain't fighting him. Then he got, I think he got security guards too. Them niggas about 6'4". He probably got security guards. Like they probably 6'4". It ain't too much you can do, nigga. Man, you gotta hit them niggas with all type of bats, and man, you gotta damn near send them niggas. You gotta paralyze. Man, you gotta do something. Man, from these stories right here, this nigga is a boogeyman. This nigga is a boogeyman because, like I said, you're not finna fight this nigga this big. If you're smaller than the nigga, you're not finna fight him. You swing on him, he damn near grab you, and man, it's over with. Nigga, 200+ pounds. Man, you can't teach 6'3", 200+ pounds. You can't teach that.
Just move on and consider themselves lucky to be alive. But the Linwood brothers went straight to the cops and got Suge arrested. He was already on probation and could have ended up doing time in prison. But then Suge proved that he knew exactly how to work the system.
And got
pleaded
right
no
out.
contest and got hit with 5 more years of probation.
Exactly.
And when the brothers tried to sue him, Suge gave the prosecuting attorney's daughter a record deal. The attorney got fired over the situation, but Suge dodged any charges and went right back to handing out beatdowns. People who saw everything up close said that death row was a terrifying place to be. Snoop, Dre, and Pac were 3 of the biggest artists in the industry. Suge was making a name for himself, too. He allegedly would drag death row employees into back rooms and beat them while they screamed for their lives. Everyone else had to keep working while they went down, because they knew if they said something, they'd be next. But even though death row was said to be a nightmare for anyone working there, the label had taken over the game completely. With Suge straightening everyone out on the business side, and 3 superstars putting out classic records, nobody could stop death row. It had only taken Suge a few years to create the most powerful label in the game, but it all started falling apart even faster. The first major blow came when Dre decided to leave the label. According to people involved with the situation, Dre didn't like all the partying and drama at death row. He just wanted to show up to the studio and make music. Everyone else acted like it was a frat house. Dre left and started his Aftermath label. So his old homie Pac dropped the track Toss It Up and said, "No longer Dre Day, Eddie Verderci. Blown and forgotten, rotten for plotting child's play. Check your sexuality, as fruity as this Alizé. Quick to jump ship, punk trick, what a dumb move. Cross death row, now who you gonna run to?" Dre didn't clap back, but he wasn't the only dude at death row who didn't like the situation. Snoop Dogg helped put death row on the map when Dre brought him in to help on the Chronic, and his debut album Doggy Style was an instant classic on the West Coast. But after beating the murder case and losing a lot of homies to the streets, Snoop wanted to leave all the gangster stuff behind him. While Suge and Pac were going to war with the East Coast, Snoop just wanted peace. But after he showed love to Biggie and Puffy on the radio, Suge, Pac, and the rest of the death row crew turned on him, and Snoop thought he might actually get jumped by him.
I remember.
Snoop and Pac had been close
friends, reacted to it.
But unfortunately, they never had a chance to squash the issue, because just a few days later, Pac was shot and killed in Vegas while he was with Suge. There are all kinds of rumors about what went down that night in Vegas. Some people think Pac wanted out of death row and Suge had him killed for it. But others say Pac didn't even die in Vegas and he's chilling on the beach somewhere in Cuba. No matter what happened though, death...
I've been hearing that shit since I was about in kindergarten. I've been hearing that shit. The people, they didn't say that shit so much. The people in school started saying that shit. They started saying, you know, Tupac ain't dead. Tupac in Cuba. But they said that shit. They've been saying that shit since I was in elementary. That's what's crazy. And you had a lot of people believing that. I don't know if it's true or not. But man, get on about it.
Pac didn't even die in Vegas and chilling on the beach somewhere in Cuba. No matter what happened though, death
how long
row
the nigga been in
third
Cuba?
Superstar. And that wasn't the end of Suge's bad news. Before Pac was shot in the Vegas Strip, Suge, him, and some other death row dudes jumped a crib named Orlando Anderson in the hotel lobby. A lot of people believe Pac was actually killed in revenge for jumping Anderson, and the lobby fight had consequences for Suge too. He was still on probation when it went down, and this time, he didn't get off easy. A judge sentenced him to 9 years in prison for violating parole, and by that point, Suge Knight's career was already up in the air. Suge was released in 2001 after serving 5 years. 1 year later, he was booked again for violating probation. He only got locked up for a couple months, but then got sentenced to another 10 months in 2003 after he punched a parking lot attendant in the face. A couple years later, Suge was shot at a VMA party that Kanye hosted. It's not clear why he got hit, but there were plenty of people who wanted Suge gone. Then in 2014, he was shot at a different VMA party and almost died. Suge almost pulled through and recovered, but 1 year later, he committed the crime that he's still locked up for today. In 2015, Suge ran over Terry Carter and Clay Sloan with his truck after they got into an argument on the set of Straight Outta Compton. Suge drove into both of them at a burger spot in Compton, and Terry Carter was tragically killed. Suge tried to claim that it was in self-defense, but pretty much nobody believed him. He ended up pleading guilty to voluntary manslaughter, and now he's serving a 28-year sentence. By the time he killed Terry Carter, Suge had already fallen off completely. He went bankrupt in 2006, lost ownership of Death Row Records, and even had to sell his house. Terry's death was just the final nail in the coffin, and now Suge will probably spend the rest of his life behind bars. If Suge hadn't been so brutal, there's no telling how big Death Row could have been. But instead of learning how to actually run the business, he used violence to solve every issue, and it all ended up coming back to haunt him. Suge could have been a billionaire and a legend in the rap game, but now he's just another broke dude sitting in a prison cell over a senseless act of violence.
Man, that nigga Suge is a menace. That nigga there is a maniac. That nigga pass crazy. That nigga is a maniac. That nigga run over niggas. That nigga beat niggas. Man, that nigga there is a maniac. Like I said, Man, you gonna have to carry that iron for Suge, cause he ain't fighting him. If you smaller than him, you damn sure is not fighting him. But that nigga there is a maniac, dog. That nigga, shit. That nigga Suge gonna beat your ass. That shit, when you come to the studio, nigga, you finna get beat up. You ain't finna make no song, nigga. You finna get beat up. You go to a meeting with Suge, nigga, y'all ain't finna have no meeting. That nigga finna beat your ass. That's what he finna do. That nigga there is a maniac. Oh, I ain't never heard of that nigga that ran over niggas, hunting niggas. He done made niggas strip. Man, this nigga, he is a menace. He passed a menace. He's a maniac. But like I said, I ain't really never. That's why I rock with these right here, because I didn't know all this. I knew he was in jail now for that hit and run. I knew that. But as far as the history of him coming up and when he was younger and all this and that, I did not know about all. That's why I rock with these videos right here. So hey, I see y'all rocking with them too. So let me know anything y'all want to see down below. Any beef, any whatever, anything y'all want to see, we can get on it. But if you new to the game, over here, join the game. Don't be lame. We ain't just a reaction channel. We do everything. Smash the like button for your boy. Man, I can't even say my outro right. This shit right here crazy. Man, that nigga Suge is a maniac. Man, hey, I'm gonna get at y'all in the next one.